The scrapyard sprawled across the Martian valley like a graveyard of forgotten dreams. Eli Ward wiped the red dust from his goggles as he navigated through towering heaps of decommissioned vessels. Most were human-made. Colony transports, mining rigs, the occasional military frigate stripped for parts. But today something different caught his eye. It sat half-buried beneath a collapsed cargo hauler, its hull shimmering with an iridescence that seemed to shift between silver and deep violet. The design was unmistakably alien. Organic curves that defied human engineering principles, surfaces that looked grown rather than welded. Eli's heart quickened. In 15 years of salvage work, he'd never seen anything like it. "You're not supposed to be here," he muttered, approaching cautiously. The ship was small, perhaps a single pilot craft. Symbols he couldn't read etched its surface, glowing faintly in the Martian twilight. Most salvagers would have stripped it for exotic materials and sold the tech to black market brokers. But Eli Ward had always been different. He didn't just see value. He saw stories, purposes, lives lived within metal and circuitry. His gloved hand touched the hull. It was warm, pulsing almost imperceptibly beneath his palm. Alive in some way he couldn't quite articulate. "Let's get you out of here," he decided. 3 weeks later, the alien ship sat in Eli's private workshop, a converted habdome on the outskirts of New Phoenix settlement. He'd worked methodically, carefully documenting every system as he restored it. The power core was unlike anything in human databases, a crystalline matrix that seemed to generate energy through quantum entanglement. The navigation systems operated on principles that made his head hurt, but Eli persisted. Late nights became early mornings. Coffee replaced sleep. His colleagues thought he'd lost his mind, obsessing over Xeno junk when he could be making actual money on standard repairs. On the 42nd day, something changed. He'd just reconnected what he believed was the primary neural interface when the ship's interior lights flickered to life. Not the harsh white of human vessels, but a soft amber glow that reminded him of sunset. Holographic displays materialized, showing star charts he didn't recognize and biological readouts that made his breath catch. One display dominated the others, a vital signs monitor. And the readings were declining. What the hell? Eli leaned closer, studying the alien physiological data. Heart rate, if it was a heart, dropping. Neural activity diminishing. It looked like someone was dying. The ship hummed and a panel slid open near the cockpit. Inside lay a chamber he'd assumed was cargo storage. Eli approached slowly, his headlamp cutting through the amber darkness. The creature inside made him stumble backward. It was wolf-like, but larger, its fur a deep, midnight blue that seemed to absorb light. Cybernetic implants ran along its spine, connecting directly to the ship's systems through organic-looking cables. Its chest rose and fell in shallow, labored breaths. The face was unmistakably canine, yet the eyes, currently closed, held an intelligence that went beyond any animal. "Oh God," Eli whispered. "You're part of the ship." The realization hit him like a physical blow. This wasn't just a vessel. It was a symbiotic system. The alien, the wolf, was the ship's living core, and it had been dying slowly in that scrapyard. Its systems failing as whoever abandoned it had severed critical connections. Eli's hands moved before his mind fully processed the decision. He pulled up the biological readings, cross-referencing them with the ship's repair logs he'd been compiling. Power distribution was wrong. The neural interface he'd reconnected was drawing energy away from life support, routing it to propulsion systems that didn't need to be active. Stupid human mistake, he cursed himself, fingers flying across the holographic controls. You don't hotwire a living ship like it's a damn car. He reconfigured the power matrix, prioritizing the biological support systems. The ship responded immediately, its hum deepening to something almost like a purr. Fresh oxygen cycled through the chamber. Nutrient feeds that Eli hadn't even identified began flowing again. The wolf's breathing steadied. Hours passed. Eli worked with a desperate focus he'd never experienced, learning the ship's language through trial and error, through intuition and luck. He fabricated adapter cables from his own workshop supplies, creating hybrid interfaces between human technology and alien biology. It was crude, improvised, probably breaking a dozen interstellar treaties he didn't even know existed, but it was working. As dawn broke over the Martian horizon, casting red light through the habdome's viewports, the wolf's eyes opened, They were silver, flecked with gold, and impossibly aware. The creature, no, the being, studied Eli with an intelligence that made him feel simultaneously terrified and honored. When it spoke, the voice came not from its throat but from the ship's speakers, translated through systems Eli had unknowingly repaired. You saved this one. The words were halting, as if the translator was remembering how to function. Why? Eli sat back on his heels, exhausted beyond measure. Because you needed saving. And because. He looked at the ship, at the being before him, at the evidence of abandonment and neglect that he'd spent weeks undoing. Because nobody deserves to die alone in a scrapyard. The wolf, Varen according to the designation that now appeared on the displays, tilted its head. This one is Varen, bond pilot of the Whisper Through Stars. We were cast aside, damaged, deemed irreparable by our fleet. Well, your fleet was wrong, Eli said firmly. You're not irreparable. You're just different, and different just means you need someone who gives a damn enough to figure you out. For a long moment, Varen simply stared at him. Then something remarkable happened. The wolf's tail moved, a single weak wag, and the ship's systems brightened, stabilized, finding harmony in ways Eli's instruments couldn't fully measure but could definitely detect. Eli Ward, Varen said, the translator working smoothly now. This one will remember. When they ask how a human mechanic saved a Lycosian bond pilot without training, without knowledge of our kind, this one will tell them the truth. What's that? That humans see persons where others see problems. That you fix what is broken not because it is valuable but because it deserves to work again. Varen's eyes gleamed. This one will tell them that humanity is dangerous, not because of your weapons but because of your compassion. Eli laughed, the sound cracking with exhaustion and relief. I just like fixing things. Yes, Varen agreed, and the ship hummed its agreement around them. That is why you are dangerous.